Right, hello everyone, how are we doing? I feel like I've not spoken to you all in a wee while, in the present day anyway. This isn't past Hamish like you've been seeing already this week. This isn't future Hamish. This is very much present day Hamish here and ready to talk about Celtic. I'm just thinking that actually as you are watching this, it will be Hamish of the past that you're looking at. So hopefully you got what I was trying to say. Today's video is going to be looking at current issues rather than looking back at last season. On that subject, hopefully you're enjoying the season recap that we're putting out this week. 4 parts. The first 2 parts are already out on Monday. Funnily enough, part 1 went out. It was a look at, the first part of Celtic's season from Ange coming to the club all the way up until I think the first or second international break, just prior to that when we got our big 2-1 victory at Pittodrie. So loads happened there. Part 2 went out yesterday. That went all the way up until the League Cup final victory over Hibs at the end of December. Parts 3 and 4 will come out later this week. We're going to make you wait for them a little bit. Today we've got a solo video. We've got Jackie back on the channel for the final time this season tomorrow. Then we'll release part 3 on Friday, part 4 on Saturday. Now on to more current matters. We should definitely start with the latest over Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota. Will they be signing for Celtic and playing for the club permanently next season? Now I'll let you in on a wee secret. It may be a secret, it may not be. I've found this whole stuff over Carter-Vickers and Jota pretty tiresome over the last probably 10 months or so. We've tended not to cover it too much on the channel for that reason. It's just, I feel like if you get totally invested in all the kind of ups and downs of whether these players are going to sign or not, then you're just going to be doing update after update, and that would become pretty boring pretty quickly, I think. However, today we do have an interesting update, I think, on both, and it's good news with regards to both. If we start with Cameron Carter-Vickers, the Daily Record, who, to be fair, have got things wrong in the past, Eddie Howe, but in general, they're an interesting kind of outlet to look at and what they're saying. They say that Carter-Vickers wants to stay at Celtic next season and has agreed personal terms to sign permanently. Now, the club, Celtic that is, agreed a fee with Carter-Vickers' parent club Spurs last summer. It was said to be around £6 million originally, rising to about £10 million if certain bonuses and performance related stuff is met. Celtic have until June the 15th to take up that option and sign Carter-Vickers before other clubs can jump in. But in general, it seems like this deal is going to happen. £10 million, if it does reach that point, would be a record signing for Celtic. Our record at the moment is the £9 million we paid for Odsonne Edouard probably 3 seasons ago. It's a lot of money, but I don't think you would find too many people who wouldn't feel that it was good value with regards to Carter-Vickers, given how consistently well he performed for his last season. He's about as surefire a good signing as you'll find. He's proven himself in Scotland already. He knows the club, he knows the league, he knows his teammates. And I think signing Carter-Vickers prior to the Celtic squad returning back to training at Lennox Town would be just a brilliant move. It would be like he was never away at all. And the good news keeps coming with regards to Jota. Again, the Daily Record are reporting this news. They say that Celtic expect to sign Jota this week. He'll cost £6.5 million from Benfica. There's not a lot more information about Jota, but it does seem pretty similar to Cameron Carter-Vickers all in. Hopefully Celtic are going to bring us this news in the coming weeks, ideally in a double announcement. Can you imagine the carnage on Celtic Twitter and Celtic Facebook and Celtic YouTube and Celtic Instagram if they announce the duo together? Both of them, I don't know if they'd be actually physically standing next to each other because I'm guessing they're on holiday, although I think they've both been on holiday. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe we could get both holding a scarf above their head. One scarf, one at each end. Ange in the middle. Who else can we get involved? I don't know. I'll work on it, but this is what we want. I mean, it would be absolutely amazing to have these two signed. Imagine the boost it would give us for the summer ahead. And I think as much as it would be a boost, it would just be huge for the club as well. It would really set us up for the summer and next season. Now, Dyson Maeda has also joined the club permanently now. That was always going to be the case, so that's not nearly as big a deal as either Jota or Carter-Vickers, but it just gives us a really solid platform to build from going forward. I feel like in recent years, at this point in the season, Celtic have always been filling gaps. Now, for example, when Kieran Tierney left, suddenly we needed to find a left back to fill that gap. Greg Taylor was the guy. Scott Brown leaves last summer, so does Christopher Ayer, even someone like Jeremy Frimpong. These players left and Celtic had a massive issue in the summer. We had to fill those positions. Obviously that could still happen this summer. We could receive a major offer from a team in a huge league that we have to accept for one of our key players, albeit reluctantly. But in general, if Celtic sign Carter-Vickers and Jota and keep the rest of that squad we've got, I don't feel there's like a position that we absolutely must sign in. Now, I think we really want it, and I think Ange is clearly going to upgrade the squad. But put it this way, if Jota and Carter-Vickers join the club and we don't sign anyone else, I would still expect Celtic to win the league next season, because of course they've proven it this year. I think the great thing is that Ange is going to look to keep raising the level of the Celtic squad. He's going to look for real quality this summer, and that's pretty exciting for me. On the subject of other incomings, it's been reported that Ange is after a left back, a centre back, and another centre forward. Now, interesting that a centre midfielder isn't there. Perhaps he thinks that Gucci is the guy who can do that. Perhaps he thinks it's James McCarthy. Maybe he thinks we just don't need anyone. Maybe the Daily Record, who are reporting this again, are just miles off it. So there's always a danger you read too much into these things. But anyway, taking them at their word, it's pretty clear I think that we'll sign a left back this summer. Vélez Sarsfield's Argentinian left back Francisco Ortega has been linked. So has Hammarby's Mohamed Yatsa, although that's gone a little bit quiet, and Ange actually kind of denied that a bit in the final week of the season when he was asked. Centre back is another pretty obvious one, I would suggest. It seems increasingly likely that Christopher Jullien is going to leave the club. I think we probably need another centre back if that's the case to push Starfelt, Carter-Vickers, of course, and even someone like Stephen Welsh. Now, I think Stephen Welsh is a pretty decent squad player. I think he was very reliable for Celtic when he fitted in last season. But you don't really want to have only Stephen Welsh as your backup defender. I think we probably got pretty fortunate last season for all of our injuries that Starfelt and Carter-Vickers weren't badly affected, really. I mean, Carter-Vickers didn't have an injury all season, I don't think. I think he missed one game for personal reasons. And Starfelt, I think, had a small period, maybe of 3 or 4 weeks that he missed. But other than that, those guys played throughout the season. I wouldn't want to see that situation again next season. I think it'd be good to have another option on top of Welsh. There's also a bit of a feeling maybe under the surface, it's fair to say, and I don't necessarily agree with this, that Carter-Vickers and Starfelt aren't good enough if Celtic want to go to the next level in Europe. And that comes down to maybe the way they bring out the ball from the back, and perhaps we need a better ball-playing centre-back. Now, I would love to see sign another centre-back. I think it is quite important. And I think if we're doing that, you want it to be a proper Ange signing who's really, really good in the ball and can take the ball and bring it forward in Europe and in the bigger games we play domestically. But I do think that Carter-Vickers and Starfelt can do this. I just personally don't think they show enough belief to do it. I think they're both better in possession than people realise. I just want to see them taking far more responsibility next season, bringing the ball out from the back under pressure and creating opportunities for players in front of them. But again, perhaps signing someone else could help raise those standards. I think that's the whole thing this summer. It's about raising the standards at Celtic, coming back better and bigger, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's bigger and better, as Ange said, to 60,000 of us on Trophy Day. Finally, the really interesting one, as always, attacking players seem to take far more of the spotlight, is the last one, another striker. Looking at our current options up top, mainly Kyogo, Giakoumakis. I know we've got a Yeti there. He's clearly not going to be a Postecoglou player. Maida can play up front, but is viewed more as a left winger. I think rightly so. We've got Joey Dawson, Johnny Kenny, who just aren't up to that standard at the moment. So it's basically Kyogo and Giakoumakis fighting for that striker's berth. You would probably, looking at those two, and given that Ange only plays one striker, you would probably come to the conclusion that we don't need another striker. So it's maybe a little bit interesting that Ange is apparently looking at another forward. The only thing that I can think of is that perhaps Ange is looking more to the future rather than just next season. We know he's already done that last season. He's admitted to that actually when bringing in the likes of O'Reilly, Gucci to perhaps replace players like Beaton and Rogic, who he knew at the time were unlikely to extend their stay. Now, Kyogo and Giakoumakis are both 27 years old. I hate to do this, and I'm going to apologise in advance, but I think maybe in the next 2 to 2.5 years, at least one of them are going to move on. I think they've both just been so good for Celtic, both just scoring for fun, been massive revelations since they've signed. I think there's a fair chance at least one of them moves on, and it'd be good to have a younger option at the club ready to step in when one of them does. Now, at the moment, they could play third fiddle, if there is such a thing as third fiddle, contribute, and then be ready to step into the shoes of Kyogo and Giakoumakis when they do move on. Now, going back to Brendan Rodgers' second season, and after the Invincible campaign, when Dembele had been amazing, and Griffiths had contributed as well, and Griffiths had scored 40 odd goals a season before that, I doubt too many people would have felt that we needed Odsonne-Edouard, a third striker, given that Rodgers only played one up top. And I think we're in a similar situation at the moment. Edouard took his time. He was never really a constant player in that first season. I think second season he became that in the latter half of that when Dembele moved on. And I think we're in that position at the moment where it might be good to sign a third striker, a younger player who can, as I say, contribute. I'm not just talking about someone who sits on the bench for a couple of years, someone who can come in, change games, contribute, but also be a long-term Celtic player when these players move on. And let's face it, we probably only got half a season out of both Kyogo and Giakoumakis last season due to injury. So a third choice striker last year would have had plenty of game time. I mean, we had Turnbull up top at stages, Abada played up top, Maida played up top, Joey Dawson played up top one game. There must have been other folk, or Yeti obviously, played up front. So there was a lot of last season spent with neither Kyogo or Giakoumakis up front, and I don't think we can afford to have players like Turnbull and a Yeti playing up front next season if Ange really wants to raise the levels. So yeah, I think a third choice striker would be a good idea as well. I don't think we should get all worried about that. I think it's a great thing that Ange is just looking to improve this squad to the max. Can you tell I'm excited about next season? I just think Celtic are going to come back flying. I think there's a massive opportunity for Celtic next season to start this league campaign off really well. All of our title rivals, which is basically one team, but the other teams at the top of the table are all going to have pretty important qualifiers at the start of their season. We know that across the city they're going to have a fair bit of a rebuild, I think, this summer. So I think there's a massive opportunity for Celtic in stark comparison to last season. In fact, the roles have almost flipped with no qualifiers to play, no other distractions in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season to really start this season on fire. Remember, first derby of the season is at Celtic Park. I think the first game against Hearts will be at Celtic Park if it works out that way. So there's a massive opportunity for us to really start this season strong. And I'm already looking at next season's title race, which I probably shouldn't do on the 25th of May. Right, before I go into next season anymore, I'm going to call it there for today. I'm going to hold off on doing our big 30k bundle giveaway until we next do a live show. Just works much better doing it in a live show. For a number of reasons. Remember, we're giving away mugs and t-shirts and all of that, so we'll do that in our next live show. Tomorrow we're back on the channel with Jackie. We'll speak to you then.